Welcome back to another video. Yesterday I picked up these two buttes. Got both of them for $100. Can't believe it, but I got two pressure lubed opposed twins in the matter of 3 days. My other one's sitting right there. I just did a will it start video on it. And that one is a hydro, so I'm just gonna tear the motor out of it. But this one has a nice 6-speed Spicer transaxle, which shifts actually really nice. It's the same transaxle which runs on my 60 miles an hour snow mower, and it holds up really well to that speed, so I'm going to use this too. So I'm going to tear off this motor, swap in a V-twin Vanguard. I just like the Vanguards more because they're built more for speed. These opposed twins are really tall. As you can see, it's a really tall motor. And the V-twins will be more like down here. We'll save like 4 inches or so. And I find that these opposed twins more like they're designed for torque applications like a mud mower. So I really don't want to bypass the governor on them, because I find they throw rods once you do that. So I'm going to tear this motor off. Well, basically I'm just going to strip this thing down to its bare frame. I'm going to flip the front axle upside down to lower the front end. I'm going to cut and weld the rear end to lower it. And yeah, I just plan to build a rat rod, so I'll get back to you guys when she's all stripped down. Well, about an hour later and she's all stripped down. Only thing I left on the thing was the transmission, shifter, steering. I'm gonna do custom steering though, that's gonna get deleted later. And I left the clutch on and the tires. But it's basically just a frame now. Now I'm gonna wheel it over there and go pressure wash it. And I'll be back once it's pressure washed. Well, just finished pressure washing the frame. She's all grease free now. Now I'm going to work on lowering the front end. So what that involves is what we're going to do. We're going to take out this bolt right here. And we're going to take off all the linkages. We're going to take this front axle here. We're going to flip it upside down. And what that'll do, that'll bring our whatever you call it, the spindles. It'll bring them up here and it'll slam the front end way down. And then we will add supports in here. As you can see, these front ends on these Craftsmans are very weak. These Craftsmans are very good machines, but the one drawback with these, well actually the two, is the front end and the steering. You see these? See how they're so damaged? Well, this is where your steering wheel would connect to, and over time those just get fucked. So we're going to be doing custom steering. As look, it's not even engaging anymore, and we don't need all this slop when we're going 60 miles an hour, and especially with the front end. So we're going to flip the axle, add shims, weld it solid, and do the custom steering. I'll get back to you when I got the front axle dropped. Okay, so I just flipped the axle. It's upside down right now, but I just flipped the axle. As you can see, the front end, well, the piece of metal that attaches the front end to the frame was bolted down to 2 things, and I had to take it out and then just bolt it into just this, because when it was down lower, it was way too low to the ground, and the tie rod was rubbing, the axle was not even seating on the frame. Like, I couldn't even get this bolt through. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add support metal. I'm just gonna weld this, because now I only have 1 bolt on each side. So I'm gonna weld it up and I'll get back to you. Just about to weld up this front end here, and I was just curious about what I'm going to do about a tie rod. And if anybody's going to try to attempt what I'm doing here, turns out the stock tie rod works just perfectly just has like 2 millimeters of clearance if you flip it upside down, and it works pretty well. It even will connect to the stock steering if you would like, but I am going to do my own thing about that, so just letting you all know. Okay, so I just spooned my new front tires on because the old ones were dry rotted. One of them didn't hold air, and I kind of want to have some decent tires for when I'm going 60 miles an hour. But anyways, now we're finally getting to welding this front end, and I've got little plates of steel here. I don't really see anywheres to add them. Maybe like in here a bit. They're like the perfect height. But I think if I just run a bead all around here and then all along here, basically just weld this thing really solid, and I think it'll be fine. Probably do a couple tack welds right here, because there's not many factory welds, and they don't look that good. But anyways, I'll get to welding it, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so just a little reminder, I just tacked all 4 corners. Now, if you're going to follow this, I have a little bit of a suggestion for you. Don't just go around and just laying bead after bead after bead. When metal expands when it's hot, so welding is really hot, and it'll warp the metal. So if you just run a straight bead, like right there or right here, it'll warp the metal and things won't be straight. So I suggest that you do what I did. I just tacked right there, and then I go to the opposite corner, and then I go to this side, and then I go to the opposite corner. And that will allow you to get your piece of metal set and get it really straight. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit this with a wire wheel to get all the paint off, and then I'll lay down a section of beads everywhere. And I'll get back to you after I'm done that. Okay, so I just welded the front end. I haven't knocked off the slag yet. I'd say the welds are pretty decent. I'm not the best welder in the world, but she'll hold. And next is lowering the rear end. I measured the front end, and it's around 4.5 inches off the ground. And I do want the rear end just like 2 inches taller than the front end to give it that stance, like that drag mower stance. So I measured the back end, and it was 11.5 inches off the ground. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to unbolt the transmission, yoink it right out, and then these brackets here that hold on the transmission, we're going to cut out the frame. We're going to cut out 5 inches of the frame. So then transaxle, like, we're going to make a slot in the frame here. So imagine a rectangle slot. So we're going to cut there and 5 inches down. So then that'll bring down the transmission 5 inches. And then we're also going to have to flip the transmission. So then the pulley is on this side. We're going to have to do that because, as you can see, if we drop that 5 inches right now, this pulley will be on the other side of the frame, and the engine's pulley is right here. So we're going to have to flip it. So this pulley is here, and once we drop it 5 inches, it should be right in around the same spot as this. And it doesn't have to be perfect because the engine has its own keyed shaft that we can move the pulley up and down. So we could move the engine's pulley to where we need it. So we don't have to be exactly perfect. We just know that we have to flip this upside down and cut the frame. So I'm going to unbolt the transaxle right now, and I'll mark out what I'm going to cut, and I'll get back to you. So I got the transaxle popped off, and I got the the slots marked out. So this is the plate that the transaxle bolts to. It bolts in right here, matches up with the holes, as you can see. And it'll sit right about there. And now what we're going to do, I just made a rectangle 5 inches deep and then as wide as the transaxle over there so it can slide down into this as well as this piece. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to weld right here to keep this back plate on, because this is its own thing. So I'm going to have to weld to keep this back plate on because I need to remove this. And then I'm going to take the angle grinder and I'm going to cut this out. I did it on both sides. And then I'm going to put this bracket on the inside just like this, but it'll be way down lower. It'll be this lip right here will be sitting right here. And I'll weld this bracket to the inside of the frame, and then I'll drop the transmission back on. So I'll get back to you once I got these slots cut, and I'll tell you what I'm doing from there. So, just got finished welding it up. Well, I just tacked it right now because I need to flip it over to finish it up. But, anyways, you could see how that worked. So I welded it into there, and it went into this slot here. My only problem is I don't know, it didn't drop this pulley as much as I hoped. It'll still clear the ground just fine. But what I'm worried about, I don't know if the engine shaft is long enough for this. It might be, but if it's not, then what I'll have to do, I'll have to have a main pulley system coming off of the engine, and then it'll have to go to a jack shaft right here, which will just be like a 5/8 keyed shaft, and there'll be a pulley on the bottom being driven by the engine. And then I'll have to have a raised pulley up here, which then drives this. But I think that the engine shaft will be long enough. Here's to hoping. Anyways, I'm going to put the tires back on, flip it over, finish the welds, and then see the stance and share it with you guys. So I'll catch you when that happens. Just took it out of the welding booth there. And I love how this thing looks. It is coming out great. I like how this plate here had a lot of holes in it. It had 7 holes. So I just put liquid bolts in. Now if you were gonna do this, I suggest you just drill the holes out and then put it in all 4 corners, and that'd be plenty enough for you. But I just had the welder, so I didn't want to mess around with drilling holes or anything. But I like the stance that it has. It's got a pretty nice stance, and I think it'll be turning out great. And I'll get back to you tomorrow when I get back at this again. Well, just before I head inside, we'll actually have to go rotate my dad's tires on his truck first. But I just wanted to mock up the engine and the hood to see what this thing is going to look like. And I really am digging this look. It's going to look badass. Anyways, that's the end of this video.